Jasmine Walker walked slowly down the crowded hallway of Franklin High School. It was her third week at this new school, and she still felt like a stranger. The other students moved in groups, laughing and talking loudly. No one noticed the quiet girl with dark skin and braided hair who kept her eyes on the floor. Jasmine was 16 years old, and this was her fourth school in 6 years. Her mother had to move often for work, and each new school was the same story. Jasmine would try to fit in, but she was always the outsider. Today, Jasmine wore her blue sweater again. She only had 3 nice tops that she rotated throughout the week. Some kids had already noticed and whispered about it when she walked by. Jasmine pretended not to hear them. She had more important things to worry about, like surviving another day in Mr. Peterson's calculus class. Mr. Peterson was the kind of teacher students feared. He was tall and thin with gray hair that was always perfectly combed. He had been teaching math at Franklin High for 27 years, and he made sure everyone knew it. He believed some students were worth his time and others were not. From the first day, he had decided Jasmine belonged in the second group. The bell rang, and Jasmine hurried to reach class on time. Being late to Mr. Peterson's class was asking for trouble. She slipped into the room just before the final bell and made her way to her seat in the back row. She liked sitting in the back where fewer people could stare at her. The seat next to her was always empty. No one chose to sit by the quiet new girl if they had any other option. "Take out your homework," Mr. Peterson announced in his sharp voice. "We will review the problems before moving on to today's lesson." Jasmine opened her worn notebook. Inside, the pages were filled with neat handwriting and complex equations. Math had always been easy for Jasmine. Numbers made sense to her in a way that people didn't. When she was just 5 years old, her mother had found her writing multiplication tables for fun. By 10, she was solving algebra problems meant for high school students. But Jasmine had learned early on that being too smart could make other kids dislike her even more, so she kept her abilities hidden. Mr. Peterson walked up and down the rows checking homework. When he reached Jasmine's desk, he barely glanced at her work before moving on. He never called on her in class, never praised her correct answers. It was as if she were invisible. Sometimes Jasmine thought that might be better than the alternative. At the front of the class, Mr. Peterson began explaining a problem on the board. "This integration requires careful attention," he said. "Many of you made careless errors in your homework." Jasmine had completed the homework perfectly, but she knew Mr. Peterson wouldn't ask for her answers. She opened to a fresh page in her notebook and began working on a different problem, one from a college-level textbook she had found in the library. The equation was challenging, much more complex than anything Mr. Peterson was teaching. Numbers and symbols flowed from her pencil as she lost herself in the beauty of mathematics. "Ms. Walker," Mr. Peterson's sharp voice cut through her concentration. Jasmine's head snapped up. The entire class had turned to stare at her. "Since you find my lesson so boring that you're busy doodling," Mr. Peterson said with a cold smile, "perhaps you'd like to come up and solve this problem for the class?" Laughter rippled through the room. Jasmine felt her face grow hot. She hadn't been doodling. She'd been solving an equation far more difficult than the one on the board. But Mr. Peterson had already decided what kind of student she was. Lazy, uninterested, not worth his time. "I wasn't doodling," Jasmine said quietly. "Excuse me?" Mr. Peterson's eyebrows shot up. He wasn't used to students talking back. "I was doing math," Jasmine said, her voice still soft but steady. Mr. Peterson's face darkened. "Well, in that case, you should have no trouble solving this." He pointed to the board where a complex differential equation was written. It wasn't from their current chapter. It was more advanced material they hadn't covered yet. Several students exchanged worried glances. Even the best math students in the class wouldn't know how to approach it. Jasmine recognized the equation immediately. It was similar to ones she had been working on in her free time. She could solve it, but a warning voice in her head told her to be careful. Every time she had shown her true abilities at previous schools, it had only led to trouble. Some teachers didn't believe she could do the work on her own. Others felt threatened. Students called her names: show-off, teachers, pet freak. "We're waiting, Ms. Walker," Mr. Peterson said, tapping his foot impatiently. His eyes were cold, expecting her to fail. Or would you rather take your little drawings to the principal's office? More laughter followed. A boy in the front row made a fake sad face at her. The girl beside him whispered something that made several others snicker. Jasmine felt a familiar tightness in her chest, the feeling of being cornered with no good options. She slowly stood up, her legs feeling shaky. The classroom suddenly seemed very large, the walk to the front impossibly long. Every step felt heavy as she made her way through the rows of desks. The other students watched her with a mixture of pity and anticipation. They were eager for the show, the new girl being humiliated by Mr. Peterson. It had happened to others before her. At the front of the class, Mr. Peterson handed her a piece of chalk with a smug smile. The whiteboard was large, the equation sprawling across it in Mr. Peterson's neat handwriting. Jasmine stared at it, her mind automatically breaking it down into parts she could solve. "Any day now, Ms. Walker," Mr. Peterson said. Several students laughed again. Jasmine took a deep breath. She had two choices. She could pretend not to know the answer and face Mr. Peterson's mockery, or she could solve it and deal with whatever came next. For a moment, she thought about her mother, who worked 2 jobs to support them. Her mother always told her, "Never hide your light for someone else's comfort." With a steady hand that surprised even herself, Jasmine raised the chalk and began to write. The room fell silent as she worked through the equation step by step. Her handwriting was clear, her method precise. She broke down the complex problem into smaller parts, applying techniques that weren't in their textbook, but that she had learned through her own reading. The silence in the room grew deeper. No one was laughing now. Mr. Peterson's smug smile had disappeared, replaced by a look of disbelief as he watched her work. Jasmine was not only solving the equation, she was doing it with an elegance and understanding that showed complete mastery of the material. When she finished, Jasmine placed the chalk down carefully and turned to face the class. 30 faces stared back at her with wide eyes. No one spoke. Mr. Peterson moved closer to the board, examining her work with narrowed eyes, looking for mistakes. He found none. "Where did you learn to do this?" he asked, his voice noticeably different, the sharpness replaced by genuine surprise. "I just like math," Jasmine replied softly. Before Mr. Peterson could respond, there was a knock at the classroom door. A woman with short gray hair and glasses stood there looking in with interest. It was Dr. Williams, the head of the science department. She had been walking past when she noticed what was happening through the window. "Is everything all right in here?" Dr. Williams asked, her eyes moving from Mr. Peterson to Jasmine to the equation on the board. "Yes," Mr. Peterson said quickly. "Ms. Walker was just demonstrating a solution for the class." Dr. Williams stepped into the room, her eyes fixed on the board. She read through Jasmine's work carefully, then turned to the girl with a warm smile. "That's quite impressive. Who taught you this method?" Jasmine shifted uncomfortably under the attention. "Nobody taught me. I read about it in a book." Dr. Williams nodded thoughtfully. "Would you mind stopping by my office after school today? I'd like to talk with you." Jasmine hesitated, then nodded. As she walked back to her seat, she noticed the other students were looking at her differently. There was confusion in their eyes and something else. Respect, maybe. Even surprise. The seat next to her, always empty, suddenly seemed to represent all the space that had always existed between her and others. For the rest of the class, Mr. Peterson didn't call on Jasmine again, but she caught him looking at her several times with a puzzled expression, as if seeing her for the first time. The bell rang, and students gathered their books quickly, many of them glancing at Jasmine as they left. As Jasmine packed her notebook, a girl named Taylor stopped by her desk. "That was really cool what you did," she said. "No one has ever left Mr. Peterson speechless before." Jasmine didn't know how to respond. This was the first time any student had spoken to her directly since she arrived at Franklin High. "Thanks," she said simply. Taylor smiled. "Do you want to sit with us at lunch tomorrow?" Before Jasmine could answer, Mr. Peterson called her name. Ms. Walker, a word, please." Taylor gave her a sympathetic look and left. Jasmine approached Mr. Peterson's desk slowly, unsure what to expect. "That equation," he said, not looking up from the papers he was organizing. "It wasn't from our current chapter." "I know," Jasmine replied, "yet you solved it perfectly." Now, he looked up at her, his expression unreadable. "Why have you been hiding your abilities in my class?" Jasmine didn't have a simple answer to that question. How could she explain the years of experience that had taught her to keep her head down? Jasmine stood outside Dr. Williams' office after school, her hand raised to knock but not quite touching the door. Her heart beat fast in her chest. She wasn't used to teachers wanting to talk to her, especially not after seeing her do math. In her old schools, standing out had only brought trouble. She took a deep breath and finally knocked. "Come in," called a friendly voice. Jasmine opened the door slowly. Dr. Williams' office was small but warm, with plants on the windowsill and colorful posters about science on the walls. Books filled the shelves, their spines showing titles about physics, chemistry, and mathematics. Dr. Williams sat behind a desk covered with papers and a computer. She smiled when she saw Jasmine. "There you are. Please sit down," she said, pointing to a chair across from her desk. Jasmine sat down carefully, placing her backpack on the floor next to her. She folded her hands in her lap and waited. "I'm glad you came," Dr. Williams said. "What you did in Mr. Peterson's class today was remarkable. That equation wasn't even in your current textbook." Jasmine looked down at her hands. "I like to read ahead." "How far ahead have you read?" Dr. Williams asked, leaning forward with interest. Jasmine hesitated. She wasn't used to adults taking her seriously. "I finished our textbook in the first week of school," she admitted quietly. "Now I'm reading a college calculus book from the library." Dr. Williams's eyebrows shot up. "The first week?" She shook her head in amazement. "And you understand it? All?" "Yes," Jasmine said simply. Math had always made sense to her, like a language she was born knowing how to speak. Dr. Williams studied her for a moment, then turned to her computer. "I hope you don't mind, but I looked up your school records after class today." She clicked through some files on her screen. "Your grades are good, mostly B's with some A's, but your standardized test scores—" She turned the screen so Jasmine could see. "They're off the charts, especially in math and science. You scored in the top 0.1% nationally." Jasmine said nothing. She knew about her test scores. They had always been high, but somehow that had never translated into special opportunities or advanced classes. At her previous schools, teachers had other explanations. She must have guessed lucky, or maybe there was a mistake in the scoring. "Jasmine," Dr. Williams said gently, "has anyone ever talked to you about gifted programs or advanced placement?" Jasmine shook her head. "My mom works 2 jobs. She doesn't have time for special school meetings, and we move a lot." Dr. Williams nodded thoughtfully. "I see. Well, it's never too late." She pulled out a folder from her desk drawer and placed it in front of Jasmine. "I'd like you to consider joining our school's math team. We compete against other schools in the region." Jasmine opened the folder slowly. Inside were papers about the math team, pictures of students holding trophies, and a schedule of meetings and competitions. "I don't know," Jasmine began. Being on a team meant standing out even more. It meant people watching her, expecting things from her. "Just think about it," Dr. Williams said. "The team meets on Tuesdays and Thursdays after school. Why don't you come to tomorrow's meeting and see if you like it?" Before Jasmine could answer, there was a knock at the office door. Mr. Peterson stood there, his tall figure filling the doorway. Jasmine tensed immediately. "Ah, Linda, I thought I might find Ms. Walker here," he said to Dr. Williams. His eyes moved to Jasmine, and his expression was different from earlier, less dismissive, more curious. "James?" Dr. Williams greeted him with a nod. "We were just discussing Jasmine's remarkable mathematical abilities." Mr. Peterson stepped into the office. "Yes, she gave quite a performance in class today." He looked at Jasmine. "I've been teaching calculus for nearly 3 decades, Ms. Walker. In all that time, I've had perhaps 3 students who could have solved that equation as you did. Jasmine didn't know what to say. Was this a compliment? Was he still angry with her? I'm adding you to our advanced study group, Mr. Peterson continued. We meet during lunch on Mondays and Wednesdays. It's for students who need more challenge than the regular curriculum provides. Jasmine looked between the two teachers in confusion. This morning, Mr. Peterson had tried to humiliate her in front of the whole class. Now he wanted her in his special study group. Dr. Williams seemed to sense her confusion. That sounds like a wonderful opportunity, doesn't it, Jasmine? She said, warmly. Between the math team and the advanced study group, you'll finally have a chance to work at your true level. I need to ask my mom, Jasmine said, feeling overwhelmed. Of course, Dr. Williams replied. Here's my card with my email and phone number. Your mother can contact me if she has any questions. Jasmine took the card and carefully put it in her pocket along with the math team folder. She picked up her backpack, ready to leave. One more thing, Dr. Williams said, reaching into her desk again. She pulled out a thick book with a blue cover. I thought you might enjoy this. It's an introduction to number theory, mathematics beyond calculus. Jasmine took the book, running her fingers over the cover. No one had ever given her an advanced math book before. Thank you, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. See you in class tomorrow, Ms. Walker, Mr. Peterson said as she left. His voice wasn't warm exactly, but it no longer had the sharp edge she was used to hearing. The hallways were mostly empty as Jasmine walked to the bus stop. She held the book Dr. Williams had given her close to her chest like a treasure. So much had changed in one day. This morning she had been invisible. Now suddenly people were seeing her, really seeing her. The next day at school felt different. When Jasmine walked into Mr. Peterson's class, Taylor waved her over. I saved you a seat, she said, pointing to the empty desk next to her in the middle row. Jasmine hesitated for just a moment before walking over. Sitting in the middle of the class meant being seen, but maybe that wasn't so bad anymore. Thanks, she said, sliding into the seat. So are you like a math genius or something? Taylor asked. Jasmine shrugged, uncomfortable with the question. I just like numbers. Well, whatever. You're officially the coolest person in this class now. Nobody has ever shown up Mr. Peterson like that. Taylor grinned. Did he give you detention? No, Jasmine said. He put me in his advanced study group. Taylor's eyes widened. Seriously? He only picks like 5 students a year for that. Jared has been trying to get in since freshman year. At the mention of his name, a boy in the front row turned around. He had blonde hair and wore a Franklin High Math Club t-shirt. He looked at Jasmine with narrowed eyes. So you're joining the study group? He asked. Jasmine nodded. We'll see how long you last, Jared said. Peterson doesn't accept slackers. He turned back around just as Mr. Peterson entered the classroom. Open your textbooks to page 94, Mr. Peterson announced. Today we're starting a new chapter on series and sequences. As the class settled in, Mr. Peterson did something unexpected. Ms. Walker, he called, please explain to the class how we determine if a series converges or diverges. All eyes turned to Jasmine. This wasn't a trick question or an attempt to embarrass her. It was a genuine opportunity to show what she knew. Jasmine took a deep breath and began to explain clearly in her quiet voice. The concepts were familiar to her, easy even. When, she finished, Mr. Peterson nodded. Correct, now let's look at some examples. Taylor leaned over and whispered, I didn't understand a word you just said, but it sounded smart. Jasmine smiled a little. For the first time in years, she had answered a question in class honestly, without trying to hide her knowledge. It felt good. After class, Mr. Peterson asked Jasmine to stay behind for a moment. She approached his desk cautiously. Your explanation was excellent, he said, arranging papers on his desk. But I noticed you've been holding back in your homework. The answers are correct, but you skip steps as if you're trying not to show your work. Jasmine looked down. At my old school, sometimes teachers thought I was cheating if I did too well. Mr. Peterson's face tightened. That won't happen here. I expect all my students to work to their full potential, especially those with rare talent. He handed her a packet of papers. These are additional problems for the study group. I'll see you Monday at lunch. As Jasmine left the classroom, she felt strange, like she was stepping out of a shadow she had lived in for years. Being seen was scary, but it also felt like finally being able to breathe freely. That afternoon, Jasmine went to the math team meeting. She sat quietly at first, watching as the other students worked on practice problems. The team captain, senior named Marcus, noticed her and came over. "Dr. Williams said you might join us," he said with a friendly smile. "Want to try a practice round?" By the end of the meeting, the other students were looking at Jasmine with new respect. She had solved problems faster than anyone else on the team. For once, being good at something didn't make her an outsider. It made her belong. 2 weeks had passed since Jasmine solved the equation on the board, and her life at Franklin High had changed in ways she never expected. She now sat in the middle row of Mr. Peterson's class, with Taylor beside her and other students who actually knew her name. The advanced study group met twice a week during lunch, and Jasmine had joined the math team, which practiced after school on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tonight, though, Jasmine had something even more important to do. She sat at the small kitchen table in the apartment she shared with her mother, surrounded by papers and forms. Dr. Williams had told her about a special mathematics competition held at the state university. The winner would receive a full scholarship to any college in the state. "Mom, can you sign these permission forms?" Jasmine asked as her mother came through the door, still wearing her nurse's aide uniform from her day job. Her mother would shower quickly and eat dinner before heading out to her night job cleaning offices. "What are these for, baby?" her mother asked, setting down her purse and looking at the papers with tired eyes. "It's for a math competition at the university," Jasmine explained. "Dr. Williams thinks I should enter." Her mother picked up the forms and read them carefully. "A full scholarship to any college in the state?" she repeated, her eyes widening. "For the winner?" Jasmine nodded. "Dr. Williams says I have a real chance." Her mother sat down heavily in the chair across from Jasmine. For a moment, she just stared at the papers, and then tears filled her eyes. "Mom? What's wrong?" Jasmine asked, alarmed. "Nothing's wrong," her mother said, wiping her eyes quickly. "I'm just proud of you, that's all. All these years moving from place to place, working these 2 jobs. I always worried I wasn't giving you enough opportunities." She reached across the table and took Jasmine's hand. "But look at you now. You've been hiding your light all this time, haven't you?" Jasmine felt her own eyes grow wet. "I didn't want to cause trouble," she said softly. "Trouble?" Her mother squeezed her hand. "Baby, your brain is a gift. Never hide it again, you hear me? I don't care what anyone says or thinks. You shine as bright as you can." She signed the forms with a flourish and handed them back to Jasmine. "Now I've got to get ready for my second shift. But this weekend you're going to tell me all about this competition and what you need to prepare. Maybe I can take a day off to go with you." "Really?" Jasmine couldn't remember the last time her mother had taken a day off work. "Really?" her mother said firmly. "This is important." The next day, Jasmine gave the signed forms to Dr. Williams. "Excellent," Dr. Williams said with a smile. "The competition is in 6 weeks. That gives us time to prepare." She handed Jasmine a thick packet of papers. "These are sample problems from previous years. We'll work on them together." After school that day, Jasmine went to the math team practice. They were preparing for a regional competition that would take place in 2 weeks. Marcus, the team captain, had become a good friend. He never seemed bothered that Jasmine could solve problems faster than he could. "Ready for the big day?" he asked as they set up the practice area. "I think so," Jasmine said. "But I'm nervous about going against Jefferson High. I heard they haven't lost in 3 years." "That's about to change," Marcus said confidently. "With you on our team, we finally have a chance to beat them." Across the room, Jared was watching them with narrowed eyes. Unlike Marcus, Jared had not welcomed Jasmine to the team. He had been Franklin High's best math student before Jasmine arrived, and he clearly didn't like being second best. "Let's see how Walker does against real competition," Jared said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Solving problems in practice is one thing. Performing under pressure is another. Jasmine tried to ignore him, but his words stung. He was right about one thing. She had never competed before. What if she froze up? What if she let everyone down? That evening, Jasmine was still thinking about Jared's comment as she rode the bus home. Her stop was in a neighborhood far from the nice houses where most Franklin High students lived. The apartment buildings here were old, with peeling paint, and security bars on the windows. As the bus pulled away, Jasmine noticed a familiar car parked across the street, a blue sedan with a Franklin High parking sticker. Inside sat Mr. Peterson looking right at her. Jasmine froze, confused. What was Mr. Peterson doing in her neighborhood? As she watched, he got out of his car and walked toward her. "Ms. Walker," he called. "May I speak with you for a moment?" Jasmine clutched her backpack tightly, suddenly nervous. "Yes, sir?" Mr. Peterson looked uncomfortable, very different from his confident classroom self. "I owe you an apology," he said, his voice lower than usual. "The way I treated you that day in class? It was unprofessional and unkind." Jasmine stared at him in surprise. This was the last thing she had expected. "I've been teaching for a long time," Mr. Peterson continued. "Too long, perhaps. I've fallen into habits of judging students quickly, making assumptions." He looked around at the neighborhood, then back at Jasmine. "I assumed many things about you that were wrong. I'm sorry." Jasmine didn't know what to say. No teacher had ever apologized to her before. "Why are you telling me this now?" she finally asked. Mr. Peterson sighed. "Dr. Williams suggested I reflect on my teaching methods. She was right." He looked directly at Jasmine. "You have an extraordinary gift for mathematics, Ms. Walker, but more than that, you have determination and character. I want you to know that I believe in you, and I will do everything I can to help you succeed." He handed her a book. "This is an advanced text on mathematical analysis. I thought you might find it useful for the state competition." Jasmine took the book, still stunned by the conversation. "Thank you," she said quietly. Mr. Peterson nodded. "I'll see you in class tomorrow." He turned and walked back to his car. Jasmine watched him drive away, the book heavy in her hands. First Dr. Williams, now Mr. Peterson. People were seeing her, believing in her. It felt strange and wonderful and a little scary all at once. The day of the regional math competition arrived quickly. The Franklin High math team gathered early in the morning to take a bus to Jefferson High School, where the event would be held. Jasmine sat next to Taylor, who had come along to support her. Friends, even though she wasn't on the team. "Are you nervous?" Taylor asked, noticing how Jasmine kept tapping her foot. "A little," Jasmine admitted. "What if I mess up?" "You won't," Taylor said confidently. "But even if you do, so what? It's just one competition." Jasmine tried to believe her, but it didn't feel like just one competition. It felt like her first chance to show what she could really do. Jefferson High was much larger than Franklin, with a beautiful campus that looked more like a college than a high school. As they entered the main building, Jasmine saw displays of trophies and awards, many for mathematics and science competitions. "Intimidating, isn't it?" Marcus said, coming up beside her. "But remember, it's just numbers, and nobody understands numbers better than you do." The competition was held in the school auditorium. 8 schools were competing, each with a team of 5 students. The format was simple. Each round, a problem would be displayed on a large screen. The first student to solve it correctly would earn points for their team. As they took their places on stage, Jasmine saw Mr. Peterson and Dr. Williams sitting in the audience. Dr. Williams gave her a thumbs-up sign. Mr. Peterson nodded solemnly. "Welcome to the 43rd Annual Regional Mathematics Competition," the announcer said. "Our first problem is now on the screen." Jasmine looked up at the problem, a complex integration that required multiple steps. She began working immediately, her pencil moving quickly across the paper. Around her, she could hear the scratching of other pencils, the occasional frustrated sigh. She finished the problem and raised her hand. "Section C, Seat 4, she called out, following the rules they had been given. That is correct, the judge announced after checking her work. 5 points for Franklin High. Jasmine caught Marcus's eye and he grinned at her. 1 problem down, 9 more to go. By the 5th problem, Franklin and Jefferson were tied for first place. Jasmine had solved 3 problems, Jared 1, and Marcus 1. The 6th problem appeared on the screen, a particularly difficult one involving complex numbers. Jasmine began working, but before she could finish, a voice called out, "Section D, Seat 2. It was a boy from Jefferson High. That is correct, the judge announced. 5 points for Jefferson High. The next problem appeared. This time, Jasmine worked even faster, determined not to let Jefferson pull ahead further. She raised her hand, just as Jared did the same. "Section C, Seat 4, she called, a fraction of a second before Jared could speak. "That is correct," the judge said. 5 points for Franklin High. Jared glared at her. "I had it first," he hissed. "No talking during the competition. A judge warned." The final problem was the most difficult of all. A proof that required creative thinking and deep understanding of mathematical principles. Jasmine stared at it, her mind racing. This wasn't just about using formulas, it was about seeing connections, finding a path through the numbers that others might miss. She began to write, the solution unfolding in her mind like a map. When she finished, she looked up to raise her hand, only to see that someone else already had theirs up. "Section D, Seat 2, called the boy from Jefferson who had answered before. The trophy from the regional math competition sat on Dr. Williams' desk, shining under the office lights. Franklin High hadn't won a math competition in 8 years, and now the whole school was talking about it. Jasmine's name was mentioned. In the morning announcements, and students she had never spoken to smiled at her in the hallways. It was strange to be noticed after spending so much time trying to be invisible. "The state university competition is in 3 weeks, Dr. Williams said, sliding a thick folder across her desk to Jasmine. "These are the hardest problems from the last 5 years of the competition. We need to start preparing now." Jasmine opened the folder and looked at the first page. The problems were far more difficult than anything in the regional competition. Some used concepts she had only read about briefly. "These are really hard," she said, feeling a flutter of doubt in her stomach. "Yes, they are," Dr. Williams agreed. "But I believe you can handle them. We'll work on them together, and Mr. Peterson has offered to help as well." Jasmine was still getting used to the new Mr. Peterson. He called on her regularly in class now, challenging her with the hardest problems. He had even started giving her college-level work to do instead of the regular assignments. The other students had noticed the change, especially Jared. "Teacher's pet," he muttered one day as Jasmine answered a particularly difficult question in class. Taylor, sitting next to Jasmine, turned around to glare at him. "You're just mad because you're not the smartest one anymore," she whispered fiercely. Jasmine touched Taylor's arm. "It's okay," she said quietly. She understood Jared's anger better than Taylor did. He had worked hard to be the best, and then she had shown up and taken that from him without even trying. After class that day, Jasmine waited until the other students had left and then approached Jared's desk. "I need help with something," she said. Jared looked up at her suspiciously. "What kind of help?" "There's a problem in the state competition packet that I'm stuck on. It's about number theory." This wasn't exactly true. Jasmine had already solved the problem, but she had noticed that number theory was Jared's specialty. "Why are you asking me? Why not ask Peterson or Dr. Williams?" Jared's voice was still hostile, but Jasmine could hear curiosity beneath it. "Because you won the number theory prize at last year's state competition," Jasmine said. "Dr. Williams told me." Jared's expression changed slightly. "Let me see the problem," he said. Jasmine took the paper from her folder and placed it on his side desk. Jared read it quickly, his eyes moving back and forth across the page. "This is a tough one," he admitted. "But I think I see an approach." He grabbed a pencil and began to write, explaining his thinking as he went. Jasmine watched and listened, asking questions that made Jared elaborate on his method. By the time he finished, 20 minutes had passed, and the hostile look in his eyes had been replaced by the excitement of someone sharing something they loved. "Thanks," Jasmine said when he finished. That really helps. Jared nodded, seemingly surprised to find himself having helped her. There's another problem like this in Chapter 8 of Peterson's advanced textbook, he said. You might want to look at it. I will, Jasmine promised. As she turned to leave, she added, we could study together sometimes, for the state competition. Jared was quiet for a moment, then said, Maybe. I'll think about it. It wasn't friendship exactly, but it was a start. The weeks leading up to the state competition passed in a blur of studying and practice. Jasmine spent her lunch periods with Mr. Peterson's study group, her afternoons with the math team, and her evenings working through problems with Dr. Williams. At home, she studied late into the night, often falling asleep with books and papers spread around her on the bed. Her mother noticed the dark circles under her eyes. You're pushing yourself too hard, baby, she said one morning, as Jasmine gulped down a quick breakfast before school. I have to, Jasmine said. This competition is my chance to get into any college I want. A full scholarship, Mom. Do you know what that would mean for us? Her mother sighed. I know, but I don't want you making yourself sick. Promise me you'll get some rest this weekend, Jasmine promised, but the weekend brought even more studying. The competition was now just 1 week away, and she felt like there was still so much to learn. On Monday, Dr. Williams called Jasmine to her office after school. To Jasmine's surprise, Jared was there too, along with Mr. Peterson. What's going on? Jasmine asked, looking from one face to another. We've been talking about the state competition, Dr. Williams said. As you know, each school can send up to 3 students. We've decided that you and Jared will both represent Franklin High. Jasmine looked at Jared, who nodded slightly. We've been practicing together, he admitted. Jasmine is better at calculus and analysis. I'm stronger in number, theory, and abstract algebra. Between the two of you, Franklin High has a real chance of winning, Mr. Peterson said. Not just an individual scholarship, but the school championship as well. Jasmine felt a mixture of excitement and pressure. When was the last time Franklin won the school championship? She asked. Never, Mr. Peterson said simply. But this year could be different. The day of the competition arrived cold and clear. Jasmine stood outside her apartment building at 6:30 a.m., waiting for Dr. Williams, who had offered to drive her to the state university. Her mother stood beside her, even though she had worked the night shift and should have been sleeping. I wish I could be there, her mother said, pulling her coat tighter against the morning chill. But I've got to work a double shift today. It's okay, Mom, Jasmine said. I understand. Her mother hugged her tightly. You're going to do great. I believe in you. When Dr. Williams's car pulled up, Jasmine saw that Jared was already in the back seat. Mr. Peterson sat in the front passenger seat, a folder of papers on his lap. Good morning, Jasmine, Dr. Williams called cheerfully. Ready for the big day? Jasmine said goodbye to her mother and got into the car next to Jared. He nodded at her, his face serious. Did you review the proof methods we talked about yesterday? He asked. Yes, Jasmine said. And I went through all the practice problems, again. The drive to the university took nearly an hour. As they pulled into the campus, Jasmine stared out the window at the beautiful old buildings and the students walking between them. One day, she might be one of those students. The competition was held in a large auditorium in the mathematics building. Students from 25 high schools across the state filled the seats, all of them the best math students their schools had to offer. Jasmine felt her heart beating faster as she and Jared took their places. Nervous? Jared asked, noticing how she kept adjusting her pencils. A little, Jasmine admitted. Don't be, Jared said. You're better than most of the people here. Just do what you always do. Coming from Jared, this was high praise indeed. Jasmine smiled at him, grateful for the unexpected support. The competition began with a written exam that would last 3 hours. The problems were as difficult as Jasmine had expected, but all those weeks of preparation had paid off. She worked steadily through them, applying the techniques she had practiced. When time was called, she had answered every question and felt confident about most of her solutions. After a short lunch break, the 10 students with the highest scores from the morning session would move on to the final round, a series of problems, to be solved at the front of the auditorium, with judges watching and scoring not just the answers but the methods used. Jasmine sat with Jared, Dr. Williams, and Mr. Peterson, waiting for the results of the morning session. "No matter what happens, you've both done Franklin High proud," Dr. Williams said. "Indeed," Mr. Peterson agreed. "Your preparation was excellent." A judge stepped up to the microphone. "The following students have qualified for the final round," he announced, and began reading names from a list. Jared Kaplan, Franklin High School. Jared let out a breath of relief. Dr. Williams patted his shoulder in congratulation. The judge continued reading names. Jasmine's tension grew with each one. 7, 8, 9 names were called, and hers was not among them. And finally, the judge said, "Jasmine Walker, Franklin High School." Jasmine felt lightheaded with relief. She had made it to the final round. She and Jared would both have a chance at the scholarship. "I told you," Jared said, actually smiling at her. "Now let's win this thing." The final round was even more intense than the morning session. One by one, students were called to the front to solve problems on a whiteboard, with hundreds of eyes watching their every move. Jasmine was the 8th student called up. "Ms. Walker," the head judge said, "your problem is on the screen." Jasmine looked up at the large display and felt her heart sink. The problem was incredibly complex, involving concepts she had only recently learned. She picked up the marker with a slightly shaky hand and began to work. At first, her mind felt blank, and panic started to rise in her chest. Then she remembered what Marcus had told her before the regional competition. "It's just numbers, and nobody understands numbers better than you do." She took a deep breath and looked at the problem again. Slowly, a path forward began to appear in her mind. She started writing, breaking down the complex problem into simpler parts. With each step, her confidence grew. By the time she reached the final solution, her hand was steady and her mind clear. The silence in the auditorium was complete as the head judge opened the envelope. Jasmine could hear her own heartbeat, pounding in her ears. Next to her, Jared sat stiffly, his hands gripping the edges of his seat. Dr. Williams and Mr. Peterson stood behind them, waiting just as anxiously. And now, the winner of this year's individual championship and the recipient of a full scholarship to any state university is, the judge paused, looking out at the crowd. "Jasmine Walker from Franklin High School." For a moment, Jasmine couldn't move. She had heard her name, but somehow the words didn't seem real. Dr. Williams was shaking her shoulder gently. "Jasmine, you won. Go up there." On shaky legs, Jasmine stood and walked to the stage. The applause washed over her like a wave. As she climbed the steps, she saw Mr. Peterson clapping harder than she had ever seen, a rare smile on his face. Jared was clapping too, and though he looked disappointed, he gave her a small nod of acknowledgement. The head judge shook her hand and presented her with a large certificate. "Congratulations, Ms. Walker. Your performance today was exceptional. The judges were particularly impressed by your creative approach to the final problem." A woman in a dark blue suit stepped forward. "I'm Dean Martinez from the university's mathematics department," she said, shaking Jasmine's hand. "We would be honored to have you join our program when you graduate. Please come visit us anytime to discuss your options." Cameras flashed as Jasmine stood on the stage holding her certificate. She searched the crowd, wishing her mother could be there to see this moment. Then, to her surprise, she spotted a familiar figure slipping in through a side door. It was her mother still, in her nurse's aide uniform, looking tired but radiantly happy. She must have come straight from work. After the ceremony, Jasmine ran to her mother and fell into her open arms. "I'm so proud of you, baby," her mother said, tears streaming down her face. So proud. "How did you get here? I thought you had to work," Jasmine asked, her own eyes wet with tears. "I told my supervisor this was more important," her mother said simply. "Some things can't be missed." Dr. Williams came over, followed by Mr. Peterson and Jared. They all congratulated Jasmine. Warmly. "You've made history today," Dr. Williams said. "Not just for yourself, but for Franklin High." Indeed, Mr. Peterson agreed. In 27 years of teaching, I've never seen such a remarkable performance. He cleared his throat, looking slightly uncomfortable. Ms. Walker, I owe you another apology. That first day in class, I made assumptions about you that were not only wrong but inexcusable. I'm deeply sorry for that. It's okay, Mr. Peterson, Jasmine said. Things worked out in the... And he shook his head. It's not okay, but I want you to know that you've taught me an important lesson, one I won't forget. He turned to Jasmine's mother. You have an extraordinary daughter, Mrs. Walker. Her talent is matched only by her character. Jasmine's mother smiled. I've always known that, she said. I'm just glad everyone else is finally seeing it too. A reporter from the local newspaper approached them, notebook in hand. Jasmine Walker, I'd like to interview you for tomorrow's paper. It's not every day we have such an inspiring story. The next morning, Jasmine's story was on the front page of the local paper. The headline read, Local Student Overcomes Obstacles to Win Prestigious Math Scholarship. There was a picture of Jasmine with her certificate, smiling shyly at the camera. The article told the story of how she had been underestimated but had proven her exceptional abilities, winning both the individual championship and helping Franklin High secure its first ever school championship. When Jasmine arrived at school that day, something strange happened. As she walked down the hallway, students and teachers alike stopped to congratulate her. Some people she had never even spoken to before came up to shake her hand. Principal Roberts called her to his office not to scold her but to tell her how proud the school was of her achievement. We're going to display the championship trophy in the main hallway, he told her. Your name will be on a plaque beside it. You've made history at Franklin High, Jasmine. In Mr. Peterson's class, things had changed too. When Jasmine walked in, the other students applauded. Mr. Peterson quieted them down, but he was smiling, a sight that was becoming less rare these days. As you all know, Ms. Walker and Mr. Kaplan have brought honor to our school with their performance at the state mathematics competition, he said. But more importantly, they have reminded us of a valuable lesson. Never judge someone's abilities based on appearances or assumptions. He looked directly at Jasmine. Ms. Walker, the university has contacted me. They're offering you the opportunity to take advanced classes on weekends while you complete your high school education. It's an exceptional opportunity that they rarely extend to high school students. Jasmine felt a thrill of excitement. Weekend classes at the university would mean more work, but also the chance to learn material far beyond high school level. Thank you, Mr. Peterson, she said. I'd like that very much. As the weeks passed, Jasmine's life settled into a new rhythm. She attended her regular classes at Franklin High during the week, where she was now a minor celebrity. On weekends, she took the bus to the university for advanced mathematics classes. The college students were surprised at first to have a high school student in their midst, but Jasmine's abilities quickly earned their respect. Dr. Williams continued to mentor her, helping her plan for college applications even though she already had the scholarship. You should apply to other schools too, she advised. With your record, you might get offers from top universities across the country. Even Jared had become a friend of sorts. They studied together regularly. Their initial rivalry transformed into a partnership. We make a good team, he admitted, one day. You see things I miss and I see things you miss. One afternoon in late spring, almost 6 months after that first day when Mr. Peterson had called her to the board, Jasmine was asked to speak at a special assembly. The topic was overcoming obstacles, and Principal Roberts thought she would be the perfect speaker. Standing at the podium, looking out at the sea of faces, students, teachers, parents, and community members, Jasmine felt nervous but also strangely calm. Her mother sat in the front row beaming with pride. Next to her were Dr. Williams and Mr. Peterson. 6 months ago, Jasmine began, I was the new girl who sat in the back row and tried not to be noticed. I had spent years hiding my abilities, because I was afraid of standing out, afraid of being judged for being different. She paused, looking around at the audience. Then one day, a teacher called me to the board to solve a problem he thought I couldn't handle. She smiled slightly, glancing at Mr. Peterson. He was wrong about me that day. But in an unexpected way, that moment changed my life. It forced me to stop hiding, to show what I could really do. Jasmine talked about the journey from that day to the state championship, about the people who had supported her and believed in her, and about the opportunities that had opened up for her. The most important lesson I've learned, she said toward the end of her speech, is that we all have gifts inside us. Sometimes those gifts are hidden because we're afraid to show them, or because others don't expect to find them in us. But when we have the courage to let our light shine, amazing things can happen. After the assembly, a young girl approached Jasmine. She looked to be about 12, with dark skin and braided hair similar to Jasmine's own. "I'm not very good at math," the girl said shyly, "but I love science. Do you think I could ever go to college like you?" Jasmine smiled at the girl, remembering herself just a few months ago, unsure and hiding her light. "What's your name?" she asked. "Maya," the girl replied. "Well, Maya," Jasmine said, kneeling down to look her in the eyes, "let me tell you something important. Whatever you love, whatever you're good at, that's your gift. Don't let anyone tell you what you can or can't do with it. Not ever." Maya's face lit up with a smile. "I won't," she promised. As Jasmine watched the young girl walk away, she felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Her journey wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning. There would be more challenges ahead, more obstacles to overcome, but she knew now that she had the strength to face them. From the quiet girl who had tried to be invisible, she had become someone who could inspire others. And perhaps that, even more than the scholarship or the championships, was the greatest victory of all.